The council will now come to order. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome into our first week discussing the Book of Boba Fett. This is the Galactic Council. I am your council leader. Let me go ahead and bring in the rest of our council. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We're going to go over everything Book of Boba Fett. We're going to talk Star Wars. We have 3 Star Wars experts with us, all of which have credentials like you can't imagine. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the council so we can get started right off the bat. But before I do that, let me do a quick little roll call and just say hey to everybody. Hello, Stevie, Jill, Mike B, Amanda, Orlov, Patrick, welcome in. Allison, hello. Mike B, I've already said hello to. This Dislife. Wow, he's not only in the chat, but here live with us. That's fantastic. Let's see. Lynn Butler, welcome in, everybody. Let's go ahead and bring in our council. He does not need an introduction. He is a Jedi master in his own mind. He has a fantastic channel. DC and Michelle do. There, do or do not, there is no try. Let us bring in Jedi Master DC. Welcome in.
Welcome in, everyone. Dave, how are you?
I am spectacular. How are you doing?
I am with the Force, and the Force is with me. Let's do this.
Fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to be here tonight on the Galactic Council with Dave and the folks who are to follow. I'm the Jedi Master of this here thing, as appointed by the man himself, Dave, the leader of our council. So I want to give big props to Dave in the chat.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody? Claps in the chat? Oh, come on.
Chat props.
At any rate, yeah, props. So I'm DC, and I have a channel with my wife, Michelle, and our channel is called DC and Michelle Do. And one of the big focuses that we have is building Lego Star Wars. And that's in our show, Blocking and Talking. And that's our big tie to Star Wars as far as what we do on YouTube. And as far as other things we do on YouTube, we live stream from the parks, we live stream from around our home, we spread positivity, and we just want to give back to the world that gives so much love and positivity to us. So Amen. It's a really important thing. And I don't want to get too specific, but I got a cancer diagnosis and decided to take advantage of my opportunity with YouTube to put some positivity out there. And my wife and I got together and created our channel. And again, that's DC and Michelle Do. So come and check us out. Not right now. Pay attention to the council and pay attention to the next member of the council, because I think they've got something important to say too.
You mean there's more than one of us?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So you've told me, Dave. I have faith in you.
If not, this would be a very lonely council. So
boring, because
yeah, right. So without further ado, we are going to bring in our next council member. You guys know him very well. Again, also another expert in the ways of the Force. You know him from This Life. He's going to come in and represent the darker side of things. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in Grand Moff Mark Valentine.
Only a master of evil, Dave.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I have been designated to represent the dark side, but it's very appropriate because on our Star Wars based show, Babu's Frickin' Podcast, I hail by the name, the moniker Grand Moff Mark Valentine, along with my 2 amazing co-hosts, Mike Ruby and Brian Lee. Brian Lee is Porkins, by the way. He's Brian Porkins Lee, and it's Mike Chiatti Ruby. And every other week, we release an audio-only podcast, and we talk about Star Wars. The whole premise is my good friend, Mike Ruby, has been my best friend since high school. He was the best man in my wedding. I was the best man of his. And so it's about 2 guys connecting over the course of 3 decades, and their common theme, or the common thing that has kept them together as everything has changed. The one thing that has not changed in their life and their friendship is Star Wars. And so it's a fun podcast. It's very informational, but we talk for an hour every other week. We geek out, and that's at podpage.com, Babu's-frickin' podcast. And you guys know me from my other job, which is hosting this Diz Life podcast, where, you know, DC just said, we're not just Star Wars fans. We love the Disney parks. And so every week, Dwayne, Willie, and myself, we talk Disney parks. We have a YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/thisdizlife. We're so close to 500 subscribers. We were hoping to hit 500 by 2022. So we're like, we're so close, man. We're like right there. But if you head over to youtube.com, this Diz, DIS Life, on Sundays, I already told Dave, we are going to continue to talk the book of Boba Fett in a live stream. And that's going to be every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you get to see this group of buddies just sit down. And it's a more traditional show where we're breaking down all the elements, talking about Easter eggs, talking about the stuff that you may or may not have noticed, but doing it live, taking questions from the panel. So if you have any questions about, you know, the connectedness of all of this stuff and the IP, that's a good place to come and hang out, because we nerd out. Like when I tell you we do deep dives, and we really nerd out on those shows.
We're not going to nerd out here. We're all a bunch of Star Wars dorks with great sense of humors. We're just going to talk about it in a little bit of a different light. So if you want to dive in and you really want to get those Easter eggs and really go through it. Now, don't get me wrong. DC is absolutely going to take us down that road. So is Mark. Our next guest is going to do the same thing. But before we get to him, just so everybody knows, because he was too modest to say it, he's 5 away from 500, everybody. Head on over. He pushed us over 2,000. He was there that day. He went in with his partner, his wife, and pushed us up over 2K. I'd like to return the favor if possible. Great content creator. Otherwise, he would not be on the show. He would not be here. He's a good friend of ours and of the channel. Let's help Mark, Grand Moff, get up over 500 today. We only need 5 subscribers to make that happen. So if you guys could help us out, that would be spectacular. In the chat also, I'd like to point out, is another wizard type magical style being. We all know him. We all love him. He's my partner. Magical Lifestyle Gene Fitzmagic is in the chat. Everybody, let's say hello and welcome into Gene Fitzmagic, everyone. He will be on tonight at 9 o'clock. Following this show, we will be kicking you guys over to the Disney Underground, where he will take you the rest of the way tonight. But without any further ado, we have one more person that is just sitting in the ways, just sitting there waiting patiently in the dark. He is he is ready to kill me right now. It is kind of funny. You guys know him, you love him. It's the first time on the panel, so we're going to show him a lot of love when he comes in. Make sure that we're dropping in all kinds of things for him. He is an expert, and I mean an expert in all things Star Wars. He's going to prove that to you guys tonight. He is a collector. He is a panelist. He's a mod. He is one of my very, very good friends. Everybody give it up for Sith Lord Krewitup. Welcome in.
Yeah, and I'm in the dark. Yes, I am.
I'm in the dark. So, according to what I just heard, before you get going, you're at 501, my friend.
Yes.
Thank
you. Thank you, FPE Network. Thank you to everyone in the chat. This is amazing. I can't think of a better way to celebrate 500 than to be doing it on a Star Wars show.
Amen to that. Love. So, Krewitup, hit it up. Tell everybody about you and your Star Wars isms, and most importantly, some of your collectibles.
Well, I'm inappropriately dressed here. I got Forky instead of any Star Wars stuff. On vacation for the holidays, but super happy to be here. Yes, I'm a super fan, super collector, super watcher. What else can I say? I watch DC. I do watch you, Mark, now. Subscribed. Dave, you know I watch you.
You do?
Yeah, I just heard my family scream inside too, because they're inside watching. And I think Heather's in the chat too, so great.
Now, because you won't do it, and it's because you have a very high level of respect. Your wife is also a content creator, which I totally sandbagged you with this, because I knew if I talked about it beforehand, you would tell me I couldn't do it. But when we were live, you couldn't stop me. So would you like to say it, or would you like me to?
So Heather Ever After, my wife Heather has her own channel. She does unboxings from different companies, Disney themed and or other things. I think she just did her advent calendar box opening from the UK, which was Disney themed, but from Disney parks around Europe, Paris, things like that. So she has her own channel, and go check her out if someone has the link in there. go ahead and put it in.
Oh, I think we can find a link.
Mike
for
D
him.
probably has it somewhere.
I'm sure that can happen. So there's a question in the chat that I literally I have to put up here on the screen because I don't think that any of us could argue with this. Is there really anyone who doesn't like Star Wars?
Wow.
I
I
didn't
don't know
think
if
so.
that's possible.
What a weird
No.
question to ask.
Well,
I
you
get in
know,
trouble for watching too much Star Wars on Disney Plus.
see, so I don't think it can happen. And then our partner also sat there and said, "Welcome to the network, Crew, DC, and Mark." So that would be
Go Jets.
our bearded Muppet Master, welcoming everybody in. So we're going to roll right through it. I wanted to let everybody kind of get to know you guys a little bit, and they're going to get to know you through your Star Wars isms, your stances on the Force, and what we do. So we're going to dive right into Book of Boba Fett right off the bat. Obviously, we all saw this coming with Mando. It was an absolutely epic way to transition. We're going to get into a lot of the things like why is he such a beloved character? We'll get into that a little bit later. And how did this superstar fame come around from 6 minutes and 26 seconds, 4 lines? We'll get into that.
32 seconds, 4 lines.
Thank you. I knew one of you would correct me. And so basically what we're going to start off with is let's just dive in right into the opening because the opening has so much to unbox. It is ridiculous. We wind up seeing the Sarlacc. We wind up seeing where he is. It's moments after, if it's within an hour, we'll say, of the Return of the Jedi when we just saw Luke, Han, everybody is literally right there. He just went into the mouth. He's being digested. We're going to start right there. I'm going to start to my left with DC. And what were the things that you saw? What were the things that really kind of jumped out to you? And we're going to start debating, some of the things, because I know when we were talking offline, Crew had a very good observation, which we'll get to when we get to his turn. But what was it that most, I think, just in that scene right there, because we're going to break down the opening scene by scene a little bit, and then we'll kind of go from there. But take it away for us, Jedi Master DC.
Well, thank you, Dave. What the show started out with, especially with seeing Boba in the Sarlacc, right? What you're seeing is emotion right now because it put me back to being a little boy again and wondering what it was like to digest in a monster for over 1,000 years. Because if you remember that, that's what C-3PO tells our heroes is going to happen, that they're going to be cast off into this pit and be slowly digested. So as a little boy, that struck all kinds of fear in me, right? And all kinds of imagination. So here I am. Now I get to see inside the Sarlacc pit for the first time ever. I get to have it put in front of me. I have show instead of tell. I have this visualization. And in that moment, this is what it is like for me experientially. It just made me feel like a little boy again. It put me back there. And it just brought back all this world of imagination. And I was like, what's he going to do? So,
and you bring up a good point because one of the things that you and I have talked about in previous shows and in person is one of the things that drives me nuts is the fact that when we went to new Star Wars, we didn't pay homage to the old Star Wars, and we did not even acknowledge the fact that they existed. But yet in the background, as I was talking with Mark earlier, you literally see, and I'll let Mark pick up from there, but what do we see in the background? Like what you saw in the Sarlacc, but not only that, but once he comes out, what did you see?
So I had that same wonderment and moment. Could I, guys, just indulge me for like 5 seconds? But like Boba wasn't the only one to go into the Sarlacc. Where's the other bodies, gentlemen? Like there's a stormtrooper that God knows how long he's been fighting. But like I wondered immediately, I'm like, where's the other guys? Like he's not the only one that went in.
Right.
So like
Jabba's other henchmen were tossed in there too.
I know. So I'm thinking like, did they make their way further down the bowel? Like what happened? But we joked with each other and said like, how does one die inside the Sarlacc? We got the answer almost immediately. I guess you asphyxiate and you die of the lack of oxygen. Because luckily he grabbed that hose from the helmet of the stormtrooper, got a breath of oxygen, and then Pepto-Bismoled his way out of that stomach. But when he gets out, I geeked out about you have Jabba's sail barge still smoldering from the battle, but it gave us instantly that connection of how far in he was in the Sarlacc. He was not in it save for a few hours at best, and the damage that was done, you can see not just to the Mandalorian armor, but to the tunic that he had underneath it. His skin was starting to like wither away.
Yeah.
And like we're going to talk about Bacta later on, but Bacta does work on the epidermis because he was jacked up, gentlemen.
Well, and that's kind of the point, though, right? Is here he goes in, and you brought up the one thing that I wanted to make sure that we brought up, which is, the battleship is literally laying in the desert. It's smoking, it's smoldering. It ties in perfectly with Return of the Jedi. It's literally, they have now gone into the last part of Jedi, into the movie, and we're picking up right where Mando is. So it's always like in the movies, we're looking at it from the standpoint of, oh, wow, we're going on this epic journey. But what happens when they leave? And that's where they pick this up. And I have to be honest with you. All of you said about your childhood, it did take me back. It's the first time Disney Star Wars has taken me back to, I had that ASMR moment where I'm going, that's childhood.
Well, and think about it. Like, we haven't had that answer since 1983.
Oh,
that's
exactly.
That's how long we have had to wait. Yeah, and I get it. Like, it's really cool. We got Child Boba Fett, we got Jango Fett, but that wasn't the end of the story. There was no further narrative until Boba Fett came back. He just randomly shows up in The Mandalorian. There were no answers. Everything else was legends. Nothing was canon at that point. So then he shows up in The Mandalorian, and we're like, whoa. Hold up.
What happened here?
What happened here? Like, how did this? So immediately they answered a question over 2 decades old for us who grew up needing to know, like, how does Homeboy get out of the Sarlacc? How does it happen?
True. You and I, when we were talking offline, you had brought up some obvious things that there's some possible disparities between the helmets, how things are done, what you saw. Take us back to that moment when you saw it for the first time.
So first, real quick, yes, I'm in my Sith outfit. Heather Ever After just bought me a jacket because it's freezing out here. So back to the helmet. So when he's in the Sarlacc and he sees that stormtrooper with it looks like oxygen, if you will.
Yeah.
When has Boba ever had an oxygen tank to his helmet? Which is really awkward to me, seeing him plug it up and then take it out so he can breathe, but he's still alive. Very, very weird, right?
But oddly enough, they kind of pull that back in later in the episode. The first time he gets suited up on screen.
Yep.
Right. And I think it's different because the original Boba Fett that we grew up with in, the late 70s, the 80s with Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, you don't see that.
Crew, doesn't he pull that oxygen off of the stormtrooper though?
Yeah, he did. Yes.
Yeah.
But he puts it into his own helmet, and it was like, well,
I thought he just mouthed it. I thought he went into and mouthed it.
The sounds of it sounds like he couples it into something that it helps him breathe.
That's a good point, man. I didn't think about that.
Very
weird.
weird.
Very different.
DC actually picked up on something later in the episode, which is when they're suiting him up, his helmet hisses. He does it twice. When he takes the helmet off, when they go inside the bar, his helmet, when he takes it off, there's a tss when he takes the helmet off. And when he puts the helmet back on, when the protocol droids are dressing him, there's another hiss.
Well, that was the fool me once, shame on you. That was he didn't want to get fooled twice.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the point. Is once you get to that place where that oxygen hose comes out of the stormtrooper, which we both know the tubes are sitting there like that for the stormtroopers. But when he pulls it out, to Crew's credit, it was, well, in the 80s, he didn't have that. His helmet went on and off. You can see his chin.
He didn't have it in the Mandalorian either.
No.
Yeah, Rodriguez is adding to his arsenal though too. Like that knee cannon was unique to the Mandalorian. That wasn't something that was brought out in any of the earlier stuff. But that's the cool thing. I think how do you get a guy? Yeah, but how do you get a guy that was in, like you just said it earlier? How do you get a guy that's in legitimately six minutes of or how much was it again? Like
it was 6 minutes and 32 seconds.
6 minutes and 32 seconds of screen time and becomes beloved. Dude, it's the gadgets, it's the armor, it's the mystery about what is this guy packing.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
he had all those gadgets before he actually came out in 1978. They actually brought Boba's gadgets on a news stream, if you will, of what he had, because his knees had cannons on them. He had the flamethrower. He had everything because he was supposed to be the super trooper for the Empire. The hundreds that we're going to build, just 100 of them, were going to be like the elite special forces for the Empire. And then George Lucas changed it and gave one of the artists, I forget his name, but gave the artist the go-ahead to repaint him. So everything that Boba has throughout the beginnings of Boba Fett to the Book of Boba Fett now hasn't really changed in technology, if you will, for what his suit of armor is. And that's what's kind of weird when I saw the auction, going back to the auction thing real quick, is like, okay, that didn't exist. Why does it exist now? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Actually, it's a totally solid point. Let me welcome in Anthony, and our good friend and partner channel, Pete McDivitt, is in the house as well. And then I saw This Diz Dad as well. So welcome in everybody. And hello, Lorna. We're talking a little bit of Book of Boba Fett. If you guys are just joining us, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new here, because we are growing the empire every second of the day. But going back to what you guys were just talking about, one of the things Crew is specifically referencing is Behind the Helmet, which is also on Disney Plus. If you've watched it, I would hope if you're here, you've watched Book of Boba Fett. Immediately after, they are pushing you to Behind the Helmet. And what I think everybody learned in that was exactly what Crew was talking about. There was he was supposed to be all white. There were supposed to be, a bunch of them made so that they could act almost like new stormtroopers. So there was a lot of things that we're going to unbox as we go forward through that. But if you've noticed, we've been on just the helmet aspect of the opening scene for 10 minutes because there's so much to digest, pardon the pun, of being digested by the Sarlacc that it's about. Now just imagine, we haven't even gotten to the fact that the Jawas have come. Okay, he finally gets out. Now they're laying on the back and they go and they take his armor.
It was just that I didn't feel bad anymore when Din Djarin, the Mando, was murking the Jawas. I felt so bad when he was murking the men in the Mandalorian, and then every sympathy vote that I had went right away. It went right out the window.
Exactly.
Right out the window.
That was a good scene.
Yeah, and you take a look at just the condition of Boba when he's laying there and they're taking his armor off.
Right.
And you sit there and you realize he was being digested, like all the things that were going on, and you see the condition of his skin. You see he's like just destroyed. They take all of his armor, and then I'd like your guys' opinion on this because I've now watched it about 7 or 8 times. It looks like they squeeze a carrot into his mouth. Now, obviously, it's not a carrot.
So you're talking about the Tuscan Raiders when they show up?
Yep.
So I was watching some show notes. It was actually a bug. It was an indigenous bug that I saw a little vignette on the Tuscan Raiders. And they excel. So they're actually based upon, because Dune is a forerunner of the Star Wars universe. Most people don't know that. Yeah. They were heavily inspired by Frank Herbert's Dune. And the Tuscan Raiders are, believe it or not, are based upon the Fremen from that movie. So like the Fremen, they excel at finding indigenous species that can collect water. That's the whole thing. They're digging for those pods
with water in them.
And it was actually an insect. So that goo was like a highly concentrated water content that they knew if they squeezed into his mouth that he would be able to revive. So that's why with just a small drop of that, he was able to kind of like snap to it and then walk across the desert.
It's almost like a smelling salt, but with
food, smelling salt / Gatorade on steroids.
Yeah, it was like Gatorade on steroids coming out that bug. Yep.
Yeah.
So there was a chat question which we have not gotten to yet, and we will eventually get there. So Justin had asked, how did he get his armor back? Did they show that? We'll get to that, Justin, probably about 20 to 30 minutes. But just hang in there, and we will get to that because we don't want to get before. Yeah, it's a great question because we've all kind of talked about it offline. At what point did he get his armor? How did this happen? When? Because there's so many things. They're jumping around the timeline a little bit because, as we said, the opening scene was literally it wasn't even at the end of Return of the Jedi. It's in the middle of them. It's towards about 2/3 of the way through. Yeah. So we are literally talking about a time span of a couple of hours in the beginning of the opening of the Book of Boba Fett. So we're now at the point Tuscan Raiders are now dragging him through the desert. My favorite thing was when Crew and I were talking about it offline. It was he nicknamed it the beating of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And so basically, the long and the short of it is he winds up literally going through beatings. And what were your guys' opinions of what he had to do to try and get away? And we're going to kind of move through that part of it a little bit quicker because it's intricate for the development of the story. But it's not the most debatable thing in the world.
Well, no, there's nothing to debate about. The Tuscan Raiders simply took them as slaves, right? And it's a mind conditioning technique to break someone down so that you can bend them to your will. And that's essentially why the Tuscan Raiders inflicted the beating upon beating upon beating upon our guy.
Yeah.
Strictly because they were bending him rather toward their will.
So I'm going to go ahead and put up some visuals for people who did not see it, just so that, or just kind of as a flashback. What we were talking about were things along the lines of when he came out of the Sarlacc, this is what he looked like.
Yeah.
Okay, like he's struggling right there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There is one scene I want to go back to for just a second before we actually keep going, because we skipped right over it. We kind of danced around a little bit, but there's an opening scene where they go to Coruscant in his mind. And he literally goes back to being a boy. It's this scene right here. This scene in the background alone. I mean, you're talking about the fact that they finally have addressed our movies, and I kind of skipped over this, which is really, really I feel bad as a host. Like I should have done better.
Oh, it's good, man. Well, dude, you've got a lot of stuff to break down. It happens
a lot. And we kind of jumped around because we were talking about the different things, and he goes through the desert. But we skipped over a really intricate part, which is when we do see that he is, dream. And he even says dreams come back.
Yep.
About Coruscant. So they took us all the way back to where he was, and then they take us to Jango Fett and Boba Fett. What were your guys' thoughts about the fact that he's having these dreams? He's thinking of Coruscant. He's thinking of being a kid. He's holding his dad's helmet. Let's go with Crew and start with you. And what were your thoughts about how they developed through that?
So my point is going to be very simple with this. Is they used the same actor as Jango Fett as they did Boba Fett. So right there, my thing is more like the realistic piece to maybe picking a different Boba Fett right off the bat. Yes, he went to Coruscant, saw his dad's helmet, but that little boy that we saw on episode 2 was Boba Fett, which was now Boba Fett being Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett. Like, does that make sense? That's all I thought about during that scene with Tamara Morrison playing Boba Fett and Jango Fett.
Did you feel like at that moment, though, when you're looking in the background, did it bring you back to, the second movie where you're sitting here going,
oh yeah,
is he, what do you think that obviously they're not going to take us somewhere without having some kind of meaning. They took us back to that moment. It was right after Mace Windu took Jango's head. And in all actuality, he walks over, you see the droids are all blown to bits. You see, all the death and destruction, and he picks up his dad's helmet. What do we think that they're foreshadowing, if you will? Because I love doing the parts of what do we think is coming?
Yeah.
Because we know what we saw.
So
what do we think?
So cool moment. I know I'm flash forwarding a little bit to later on in the episode. There's a very similar shot, a similar take to when Boba's helmet, when he throws it, it's filled of gold and cash, that it actually falls on the ground, rolls very similar to the way that Jango's helmet rolls. I think that's foreshadowing and somewhat symbolic to warn Boba that if he continues down this path like his father, he's going to suffer the same fate. It's almost Shakespearean of sorts. That those things. So here's the cool thing about Star Wars is in great hands. You have Dave Filoni, you have Jon Favreau, and Robert Rodriguez, who is a super fan. The guy understands Star Wars because he was like us. He was a kid sitting on his living room enjoying this. Star Wars has been getting really good at connecting the dots. And these guys love the prequels. So they are on a mission to add depth and grit to the prequels that got a lot of bad press when they came out. They came out a little bit later. People complain about the CGI and the technology. So these guys have made it their mission to create all this connective tissue between all of this stuff. So I love getting the flashback and the shot of Camino. I love getting, even though it's the same shot from Attack of the Clones with him picking up the helmet. Fun fact, it was a different camera. It's the same shot, but they chose a wider angle from it, from a different camera that was shooting the film at the same time. But these kind of things are what super fans like us, we geek out at. These are the Easter eggs that we squeal because we like that they get it. And like Dave just said, it's great that we're finally connecting all of these films that kind of languished for decades, that nothing was done with them. And the sequel trilogy kind of did that. The sequel trilogy ignored in a lot of ways what had preceded them, that, yeah, you had like nods and whatnot, but it was so subtle that it wasn't being done the way that Filoni and Favreau and now Robert Rodriguez are doing it. So like when I see this stuff, I say like, yeah, Star Wars is in the right hands. We have our Kevin Feige, if you will, in these two men that they're doing a good job.
But DC, when you see this, it takes you back. You sit there, you see this scene. Your opinion of where are they driving the story? Because you and I, when we did Loki, we went off on 3-hour expeditions, which we're not going to do tonight. But what you're seeing that moment, and where does it take you?
I think that was the way the storyteller, specifically the director Robert Rodriguez, that was his way of saying that, okay, when we go to the Bacta tank, we're going to take you to the darkest points in Boba Fett's life.
Yeah.
And I think it's setting up a series of parallels, like Mark mentioned, with the helmet falling out, the helmet rolling on the ground, the money falling out. It's essentially, to me, it was a storytelling device.
Yep.
See, and I like the fact
it's going to signal us every single time that when the Bacta tank scenes are shown, which are all going to be flashbacks, it's all going to be setting us up to understand the depth of who Boba Fett is, the damage and the pain that this man has incurred, and how it defines him in the decisions that he makes going forward. And I think there's going to be some point within the chapters of the Book of Boba Fett where we're going to reach an equilibrium point. And it's going to be about Boba Fett moving forward and past these Bacta tank scenes.
See, and I like the fact that you're using the word storytelling, because in all actuality, a lot of times we have movies, we have sagas, we have whatever, but this is them literally. They have a roadmap that they can use, so they can storytell it any way that they want to. Yep. And what's been amazing is I've talked with all three of you offline about it. So it was kind of like I knew where everybody kind of was. So I wanted to make sure that we were driving our story, if you will, in that direction. So the tank is obviously going to be that modus operandi, if you will, for them to go backwards in time and have him move around and do whatever. So I was
nervous about that too, Dave.
Yeah,
I was really nervous about, and DC was just, I was nervous of how were they going to artistically create flashback moments so that it wasn't jarring and you didn't feel like you were being taken out of the story. But Rodriguez is good at this. This was straight out of El Mariachi. If you have watched El Mariachi, if you've watched some of the films that he's
done, back to 95, Mark. Oh my gosh.
Dude, I love Robert Rodriguez. He excels at this. This is what he's really good at, is being able to tell non-linear stories. El Mariachi is a non-linear story, and it's just amazing. Desperado does the same thing in a few scenes. He has these amazing flashbacks that are like cuts. That 90s crew, like the Quentin Tarantinos, the Robert Rodriguezes of the world, they pioneered the concept, or brought back, should I say, into fashion, the concept of non-linear storytelling, that you knew, whenever you go and watch one of these guys' films, am I watching what's now or what was, until I get hit with the fact it's like, oh wait, this already happened. He's going to be able to do that. And I'm going to get to a point in this show, I'm sure, that we're not going to be able to tell, is this now or is this something that has already happened in the past?
Well, and
I
that's
hope
kind
so.
of
That would be high art for Star Wars. And if Robert Rodriguez can take us there, I will bow at the altar of Robert Rodriguez.
Well, it kind of
We can
goes
do
to
that.
what Jill's saying. Jill actually put the comment up, I do love how they're connecting the movie and the TV shows. And that's kind of the point is by being able to play us back and forth and to be able to sit there and allow us to use our imaginations and to kind of foreshadow because we want to do it. We've already been told the prequel, the what's going on and what's coming. So we want to, just in human nature, fill in the blanks, so to speak. It's like, well, wait a minute. We've already hypothesized this for decades.
Yeah.
And now they're showing it to us because you actually made that point earlier. And now we're able to finally see it.
Yeah.
So, crew, we move forward through the beatings. We're now into he's a crime lord, and they take us to tribute. And so we're now at tribute time.
Which was really, it was awkward to see. Not the first, I forgot the first character that gave money, and then the second character it got interesting after that because Boba goes, "I used to work for him."
Yeah,
it's like, well, now he is giving you tribute. How awkward does he feel?
Yeah, voiced by Robert Rodriguez too.
Yeah, he's now going backwards. So then we get to, it seems like the mayor's dignitary. I don't know if that's the right word.
Major domo. He called himself Major Domo.
Well, what would his position be though?
I think that was it. He said, "I'm the mayor's Major Domo." Like Bib Fortuna was the Major Domo for Jabba.
So is that Mr. Roboto?
It is.
Yeah,
Mr. Gato, Mr. Roboto.
And he, I could probably stop there and say, as he says, my apologies multiple times, my apologies. I love it. It's like, what is he leading up to?
Right.
And at the end, he says there may be another delegation coming. And Boba's kind of like, what's happening here? With the piece, him being a crime lord now, with the Jabba's basically being out of the business, heavy shoulders for Boba and Fennec. With the two Cremorians we talked about, I don't even want to get into that right now.
Thank God.
We're going to get there in a second. Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah. So four people, right? With a droid that's not a slipped my mind right now.
Protocol droid.
Yeah, protocol droid.
It was a torture droid from
basically are
Return
there.
of the Jedi.
And yes. So they've taken over this whole palace, if you will, as the crime lord network. And I think Boba's going to have heavy shoulders from this point on at the end of that scene, if you will.
Yeah.
Speaking of that scene, can we just talk about the Wookiee pelt for a second?
Yes. Thank you. Very disturbing. Yes.
that was pretty grim.
It is something because the first time I watched it, I got to be honest with you, I didn't know what it was. So the first time I saw it, I looked at it and I went,
"Oh, he's bringing him a throw rug."
And so originally, because it didn't look right, and then all of a sudden I went back and I stopped it and I went, "That's a Wookiee pelt." I'm like,
so to me, though, it didn't look like a Wookiee pelt. It looked like Wookiee hair, just Wookiee hair. The Wookiee got shaved, and now you have a,
I think it's like a baby Wookiee because it was.
I thought about it a little bit better, not so much grim.
It wasn't like the full size of Chewbacca, but it looked like a baby Chewie.
So it was a Trandoshan that brought it. So historically, the Trandoshans hunt Wookiees for sport, essentially. Yeah. But that whole sequence was amazing. Just could we talk about the script in that scene? That sometimes shows like this, they just get very heavy with jargon and the vernacular it's like Shakespeare, right? That sometimes you watch Shakespeare and it's very laborious to watch it. Sometimes Star Wars gets like that, or sci-fi gets like that. It was so conversational in that moment that the back and forth between him and Fennec, it was so easy between the two. And it was like, you better keep your eye on him. It's like, I keep my eye on everybody.
Well, the best part of that scene, and it's probably one of the most ironic parts of that scene, is when he turns around and he looks. Now, we don't know whether or not it's been a week, a month. We're not really sure of the time frame that he's sitting on that throne, but he looks at her and he goes, "We really need a protocol droid." Well, there was one sitting there. He was shiny and gold not that long ago. So it's kind of ironic to have him sit there and say, I wish I had C3PO. So I mean, it is kind of it's kind of funny that happened. But I want to bring up something that the chat brought up, because there were a couple of things brought up about Boba Fett, which I'm sure between the three of you, you guys can unbox for me. One of them came from, well, we all kind of know her, Explorer Jen, which would be my wife, where she put, question for Krewitup, why wouldn't it be the same actor? Boba is a clone child. The original actor who played Boba Fett, I believe, died 2 years ago. So that would be the first question that I'd have, because
I think he's still alive because he was in Under the Helmet, which was
No, he did pass away.
He passed away 2 years ago.
Because that's the next comment, which is the guy who was drafted into the role to die. So there's a lot to be unboxed with, a little bit of what we're talking about.
That's actually a really good question then.
So, you know, that's the thing is when you're looking at that moment where he's holding the helmet, even though you went practical, when you go to the movie aspect and the storytelling side, I think that's where, because we do look at this so you know, monocularly, we look at it in a way where we really need to unbox kind of what, as DC was saying about the storytelling aspect. So anyway, I just wanted to point out, you know, because the chat is very engaged with what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So they're listening to what you guys are saying, and I want to make sure that we're doing that. Jill actually followed up with the first and foremost question in everyone's mind for Boba wasn't, you know, how did he survive? What happened to him in the interim? So, you know, there's a lot of what they're questioning is the same things that we're questioning. And Jill actually followed it up when she sat there and said, I was thinking when I saw him in The Mandalorian, it's like there's this transition, because we're now playing, in all actuality, Star Wars is now, it's no longer about the movies. It is now about the shows, and the fact that they're literally playing with us, because Crew sent me originally when we were talking about it offline, this essentially takes place before, during, and after The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, this is an anthology. This is an anthology. If you remember, to people in the chat, if you remember, many years ago, it was floated that we were going to get an Obi-Wan movie, a Boba Fett movie. Right. We were supposed to be getting Star Wars stories. After Solo flopped at the box office, Disney unfairly, because it's an amazing movie. # make Solo 2 happen. Disney rethought their release schedule for all of these anthology films. So that's when the Book of Boba Fett was born, after the success of The Mandalorian. That Kathleen Kennedy, the bigwigs at Lucasfilm said, okay, Solo bombed. Mandalorian is flying high. We are going to rethink our strategy of how we're going to release all of these side stories. So I'm going to bet, and guys, I'd love to hear your take on this. I am going to bet that we are going to get some form of Solo project, but it's going to be a Disney Plus release rather than a film.
Agreed. I agree completely. And a couple of things I want to say. Hello, Yachty. Hello, Mousepirations. Hello, Heather Ever After. I know that name. So welcome in everybody who's just joining us. We're going over Book of Boba Fett. Paul Engel, welcome in. Also a Star Wars nerd like the rest of us. I would agree with you. I think that what we're learning about Disney Plus, and I'm going to go off topic for a second just to kind of throw a curveball at you guys. Bob Chapek was very specific about the fact that he said Disney Plus was the primary thing for him. He didn't care about the parks. He cared about Disney Plus. I think they're showing that a little bit, because you have Obi-Wan coming out. You have Mandalorian coming out. We're now in Book of Boba Fett. There's the Rogue One project. There's and I agree with you, but at the same time,
it's scrapped. It's tabled right now.
It's tabled at the moment, but there's at least the talks of what they're going to do with it. So does that mean that there's another Solo? Of course, you know, if you're going Obi-Wan and you're going to recast, which we're going to go over this real quick right now, since we are going down that road, we are looking at a new Skywalker.
Oh, give it to me.
Okay. So if we're going to go down this road, and we're going to be doing these things, and we're going to epically bringing this in, you can't tell me, especially with the rumors coming in Book of Boba Fett, which we're going to go to the rumors part of this a little bit right now, and we're going to kind of bounce back and forth. You're going to tell me that during this time frame, the Millennium Falcon is not flying around with Chewie, with Solo? He's not going to make an appearance in this? Of course he is, or at least we hope he will. So
don't forget, Aaron Reich is under contract for one more film. but they can rework that and say, look, instead of doing this film, we're going to bring you into this series.
But
So
they got,
that-
but they got to
being the point.
recast it.
Yeah,
As
but
far
that's the thing
as
is,
much as he brought the swagger of Solo and the cadence of Solo and embodied Solo like that, his physicality, it just didn't do it.
wasn't there.
I don't know, man. We're gonna agree to
physicality.
disagree here.
Oh, wait a minute.
Harrison, to
I
me,
see
Harrison
the
Ford is
debate.
the only Han Solo there is.
I'm gonna disagree hard with both of you guys on this. I'm sorry. I'm really
He's
sorry.
too little.
Bing,
He's
bing,
too little.
bing. Debate time.
I'm
Go.
sorry,
He's a
man.
little guy. I mean,
You're
you got Han Solo, who's tall and lanky, and his movement carries that type of swagger, and he carries that type of physical bearing on screen. Whereas at 5'9" listed, which means in real life you're 5'7", 5'8", and Harrison Ford is 6'1", 6'2", the discrepancy is just too much to overcome. And I enjoyed him as embodying Han Solo as far as the character goes, but it's a visual medium film.
Yeah. So
and
here's
it just didn't translate.
here's the problem. If you have a contemporary Han Solo right now, there's only two options that you can do. You can do like the de-aging or the face mapping like they did for Luke in The Mandalorian. And if they de-age, dude, I present as evidence, what's that garbage movie? Oh, The Irishman. So they de-aged Robert De Niro. When Robert De Niro shot, it looks so weird, but when he shot the guy, he ran like an 80-year-old man. He ran like an 80-year-old man.
When he's beating the guy up.
Yeah. I mean,
when he robs a truck, I think it's like midway through the film. And he looks like an 80-year-old man beating someone up. You're right.
Harrison Ford is old, man.
We're on the Irishman right now. We're so far left field. We're good.
We're coming back right now. Star Wars, folks.
My point being, if you're going to use the same technology they did there, I don't think that works for Han Solo. So you've got to go in this series or anything else. You've got to go with flashbacks to use Aaron Reich. So it's a younger Boba Fett, a younger Han Solo, a younger Dengar, a younger Bosk. And it's like when they were all running together for Jabba the Hutt.
All right. So I got a problem with that. My problem is if you go too far back, you're going to you could potentially open a can of worms. Besides the fact, if you go back to a young Han Solo, that's Harrison Ford. Young Harrison Ford, I mean, come on. The first movie, second movie, which for us, okay, yeah. I shouldn't say chronologically. I should say in the world of the way that the world is, The New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, he is young Harrison Ford. He's not 15, 18 Harrison Ford, but he's young, he's handsome, he's debonair. He has, I'm going to use the exact word DC used. He had swagger. He embodied the role. It was like, who you calling Scruffy?
Mike says he's in that movie. Mike, what movie was that? Mike says, I'm in that movie, by the way, LOL. You were in Solo?
What?
Like who?
Mike, Mousepiration.
All right, we want to know Mousespirations. Where were you in that movie? We want to know.
Oh my gosh.
Minds want to know because you just became a guest on next week's show.
Holy mackerel. Oh, The Irishman. He was in The Irishman.
Still?
Also cool. Also cool.
Right. You're a guest on another show. But the biggest thing though is, and I don't want to get too far off track here, but at the same time, we are talking about the fact that Marvel's done it with, the multiverse. Star Wars is going to do it through, for lack of a better explanation, it's not time traveling. It's more along the lines of storytelling.
Yep.
Where they're going to take us back in time. They're going to put us in tanks. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And that's great. But to kind of touch on your topic, yes, I think that we'll see more series come out. But going back to, we kind of left Boba getting beat up in the street, helmet rolled, full of money. We didn't really talk about the bar scene at all, where he's telling, Fennec to embrace, the culture. We also didn't talk about the fact that he did not get carried in. And I think that
bar scene was stunning, Dave.
That's the thing is it's an intricate part of what we need to talk about. And I'm going to push you guys to kind of a speed round because we are going to start running out of time. Believe it or not, we've been talking 50 minutes already, guys. We've been doing a really good, we've been on point. We've had a great discussion. But I do want to make sure that everybody gets their points in. The bar scene is big. He walked in, as he said, by his own 2 feet. Crew, I'm going to start with you. Him being carried in walking in versus being carried in. Mistake, not a mistake, and why?
Not a mistake. It's Boba Fett, right? So he's had what we don't know of his hard life after his father died. So what we just all talked about, we don't have to go back into it, but where was he from when he was a child into Empire Strikes Back, becoming a bounty hunter, right? And through the 6 minutes and 32 seconds of those two movies, he's nothing but a bounty hunter, right? His only goal in those movies was to catch Han Solo. That was it. And then you see him come to the Mandalorian and looking for his armor. I don't know the timeline necessarily right now. I'm just trying to think about it and putting it all together, like where are we at with Boba and the Mandalorian? But
love it.
It's Boba Fett, right? Like he's not going to get carried in on a litter like the Jabba, the Hutts, or any of the Jabbas. It's not going to happen.
No.
But he missed the point though. He ignored the rules of being a crime lord, and he didn't play by the rules. Now, that might pay off for him later on, but that's what set him up essentially to get jumped in the streets.
So
because he did not come in there playing by the rules, because there's established rules within this particular culture. And that rule is you show that you are higher and you are above everyone else. Now, I understand that Boba wants to show himself as a man of the people, and he's setting the stage for that.
Was Boba a Mandalorian?
What's that?
Was Boba a Mandalorian?
Genetically, yes.
Genetically, no. He grew up culturally wise. He was a clone.
Right. So genetically, he's a Mandalorian.
Grew up as a Mandalorian, right? So he still has those same aspects as a Mandalorian. It does and is they're gonna stay true to what their mind tells them, and that's what Boba did.
Of course.
You care less.
Dave,
but we'll see how it works out for him. But I'm saying in that particular moment, he screwed up.
Yeah.
He made a mistake.
Dave, if I can too, plug this for 1 second. So Sunday, again, at 8 p.m., I'm going to do a massive deep dive on the book of Exodus from the Bible and talk about how Robert Rodriguez is changing the story. That it's like, this is very mosaic. Boba Fett and the story of Boba Fett of what we've gotten so far is like ripped right out of like that old Egyptian story of like Moses going into the wilderness, being taken in by the indigenous people, going through a transformative change in terms of like his morals, his ethics, his values.
Dude, you had me at, I want to go in and compare Star Wars to the Bible.
It is.
You immediately had me at.
But who is Boba Fett going to lead out?
Dude,
who are his people that he's going to, what's the promised land that he's going to lead to?
I know it's not going to be a pure retelling of the Exodus,
right, of course.
But Rodriguez is drawing inspiration from like those old films of like the 10 Commandments, Ben-Hur. Right. It's that
it's the hero's journey.
It's the hero's journey. Yeah. And again, like I don't want to do that here. This isn't the right venue here, but if you want to get into like that kind of mind-bending film, that film discussion, that's where we're going to be doing that on Bobby's freaking podcast.
So should Boba Fett have been carried in or walked in?
Walk.
Okay, so we got 2 walk. We got one carried. Let's move it forward. Now he leaves after being paid. Fennec looks, her helmet's empty because Boba's the crime lord. They get their helmets. They walk out. He doesn't put it on. Okay, why? It's full of money. They're walking down the street. Here's the next debate. Are they being attacked by the mayor's people, the next delegation? Yes. Or is this just simply street crime because there's a vacuum that has been exposed because the Hutts are not there?
It's the mayor's men. You see in another trailer that they're in the room with the mayor.
Oh, okay.
You can see it. They're in the room with the mayor. It's the mayor's delegation.
I don't think I need to see the trailer for that to know that's the mayor's people. That's the delegation right there. They're there to make sure that they know that that's the mayor knows who he is, and they're going to either capture or beat him again.
Right. But it seemed a little too obvious, though. I think it might be a misdirection. I really do. And I think that's why Boba wanted one of them kept alive.
It could be.
Rather than Boba automatically assuming that it's going to be part of the mayor's delegation.
But Dave, I loved the Mortal Kombat references twice. We get Goro, and we get Sub-Zero in this.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And I love the fact that they did do that. They actually brought in, there was a part where when he shoots him with, the shoulder or the wristband rocket, I just wanted him to yell toasty. But, you get to a place where I mean, they looked exactly like Sub-Zero. They looked exactly. I mean, they were basically the maroon version of Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
Don't forget
So it was
Reptile
kind of
and
funny.
Smoke.
What's that?
Yep.
And Smoke.
Yeah, Reptile and
So-
Smoke too.
So basically, we feel like there's going to be a rift or a battle that's going to ensue between the mayor and the crime lord.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we think that this is going to be an intricate part of the Book of Boba Fett.
There's gonna be some type of standoff.
Oh, yeah.
for sure. There's
So
gotta-
everybody tell me this, because
It's
there was one
Tchaikovsky's
part,
gun.
there was one part in this I had a hard time with, and maybe you guys, because you guys are a lot more informed than I ever could be. Fennec is on the roof. She's chasing down the two dudes. They swing around the side of the building. She comes around. They start to fire at her. She dives off the building in Superman format and winds up on the other side of the building 10 seconds later. How'd she do it? Other than movie magic.
She's a ninja.
She's a ninja. Yeah.
She's a ninja, man. She
What
jumped
did she
down.
grab onto? She's 25 feet in the air.
It was like something straight out of Assassin's Creed. She
Yeah.
grabbed on. She probably like did a quick flip. She got right back up on that.
That
rooftop.
didn't bother anybody but me.
No, I was
No.
doing it.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
good
I
achievement,
had to
man.
ask.
I already told you I couldn't explain. I was like, I mean, whatever. It's a TV show. It's a movie. It's acting, thing, actor thing. It's special.
Dylan Kelly says it's Pilates.
I think Mouseperation Mike has the comments of the night though, by the way, with the thugs where he says, I thought it was the CDC jumping him because they took off the mask.
Yes. If you're not doing social distancing on the planet, they come after you and they bring shields and they beat you mercilessly. So, basically at that point, where do you think, because what we're going to start getting into at this point is what's number 2 look like? What does next week look like? They leave us in a place where we're now foreshadowing into next week. I think we unboxed all the major things. If you guys think that we missed something, because there are things, and I want to bring them up on screen real quick, because there were epic things along the lines of, that is just a cool monster. I don't care who and what you are.
Sand
And then-
creature. That's what they called it.
This is just cool. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't care what planet you're on. That thing is awesome. It
Yep.
didn't look CGI'd to me. Jen and I actually talked about it. Like, did they actually finally build something back in special effects land? Because he's literally pulling back. And I mean, they could have done anything and CGI'd over it. And he's standing on it clearly at the end.
That shot was a huge throwback to the Return of the Jedi when Leia
Jabba.
was choking out Jabba,
Yeah.
by the way.
Amen.
So that was a visual nod
Oh,
and
yeah.
wink to Jabba the Hutt. He did create. So this is a new creature. It is unnamed. It's not yet been introduced in canon. Robert Rodriguez and John Favreau created this character. If you watch it we always watch with the subtitles on at least once to get like little fun facts and Easter eggs.
Yep.
It has not been named yet by the Star Wars higher ups. So until then, much like we had Baby Yoda in canon for about a year until we got Grogu, he will remain either Sand Goro or Sand Creature is what they're calling him.
So did anybody else see it in such a way where all of a sudden they're sitting there and they're digging along and they're getting the water and doing this, and Boba catches the cane. All of a sudden this thing comes out from literally right underneath him. I'm thinking Dune.
I thought it was a crate dragon, to be honest with you. I thought it was a crate dragon that we got already in the Mandalorian, but a baby.
I'm glad they didn't replay it. I'm
Crew,
glad they
what do
brought
you
a
got?
new-
Because I saw you were trying to get in there.
No, all I wanted to say was that I love how the Tuscan Raider child comes back with the head and basically claims that he was the one that killed it. But the elder, you could tell, knew right off the bat, was like, you didn't kill
You
it.
didn't do it, and here's a drink.
And like, yeah, here's your water. That was what I thought was very interesting. That youngling from the Tuscan Raiders was kind of like, hey, look, he saved my life, but he didn't. I don't know. It just very selfish.
Moment of silence for the Rhodian. Rest in peace.
So Jonathan turns around and says, reminds me of the Gordon Star Trek, the Gorn. So
All right, we should someone time him out. John
Yeah.
Chong.
Star Trek.
you are not timing out Jonathan. And by the way, I got to give props to him yesterday. He was in a Zoom meeting with us, and he was literally in Luke's flight suit that he had a replica on, and it was a jacket. It was one of the coolest jackets I've ever seen. So by the way, Jonathan, Kudos. We're going
Amazing.
to actually have you on as a guest one of these days. So I want to get you in here because I know that you're Star Wars through and through. So leading back into kind of what we were talking about, because we went through a lot of the different things, and we could talk about it all day. I mean, we're all into what we saw. What are they bringing us to next week? What are we looking at? Let's start with you, Crew. Let's go through.
Okay.
I don't know. After that, so
hey, you're not the best color man in the business for nothing.
She captures whatever they want to call him, ninjas, Sub-Zero, whoever he is now, right? The mayor's men. He's going to get questioned, right? We're going to see. I think that might be probably not the first scene that we see. It's probably going to be another dream coming off of into the first scene. He's going to be back into his paused healing, by the way, which Fennec paused his healing twice or once, and then he went back in. So he's coming out of the machine. He's going to have more dreams. Beginning scene, you're going to see him questioning that mayor's men, and then I personally don't know where they're going to go with the story because it is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's story at this point, with George Lucas's mind going, all right, where does Boba Fett come from? And I think I don't want to foreshadow. I would like to see what they come up with. I really do.
Mark, what do you got?
I don't know what the flashbacks will be. That's the real wild card in this anthology in the Book of Boba Fett. My wish list, which I talk about frequently on our podcast, I need to get a younger Han Solo. I want to get Dengar. I want to get Bosk. And I really, really want to see Cad Bane in live action. Like really, really need to see Cad Bane. So I'm hopeful that in one of those wild cards in a flashback, we get that. As far as the narrative and the new stuff, I think we've already seen a lot of it in the trailers. I think you're going to get that meeting with the Trandoshans where he's sitting at the table and he's talking to them about how he wants to rule. I think he's definitely going to find out it's the mayor. I wouldn't doubt that you're going to see a meeting with him and the mayor this week. And then I think after that, then the trailers are spent and everything we get from 3 through 7 is all new. And they're going to surprise us all with the new content.
All right, my Jedi, here's the time for you to use the Force, go through the transgressions of the Force and foreshadow for us, if you will, and use those Yoda-isms and tell us what you think, because you're always great at a little bit of foreshadowing. So I left you for last so you could give me some wisdom.
And thanks to my fellow guests on the council tonight. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys and discussing.
We're not done. Keep going. I got another question.
Oh, look, I'm just paying tribute first, guys. Before
don't pay
I chop their
tribute.
heads off.
I've been eating donuts.
Oh boy.
No, but basically what we are seeing here is the development of his relationship with the Tuscan Raiders, because I think that we are being foreshadowed that the Tuscan Raiders are going to become his heavies.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be how he consolidates, maintains, and grows his power. I think that is what we are being given right now.
Nice.
I think we're being given too much screen time with the Tuscan Raiders for it to just be, oh, well, this is how Boba Fett got to here.
So since you did that, I got to throw this question to you because Jill in the chat dropped this question in, which was one burning question I have from the end of the episode is, who are the two people who came out of the tent and gave the water to Boba? Since you're talking about the Raiders, give Jill a little bit of that burning. What's the answer to that burning question?
To me, that's the leader of the Tuscan, or that particular clan of Tuscan Raiders, because you see him, he is, or her, I don't know, because there's no gender identified, but that particular Tuscan Raider is the most adorned of any of them. And as they're all standing aside celebrating the youngling, you see the most decorated of them hand Boba the gourd with the water. And to me, that's it. That was everything being signaled. That's the highest ranking official with this particular clan paying his tribute to Boba Fett, realizing that Boba Fett had come through and saved the youngling. Because while the others were celebrating the youngling, like, oh, like the youngling defeated this creature, the head of the clan recognized and understood that it was Boba, who had clearly shown his wares as a fighter before. That's why we were showing the scene where they sent out one of the Tuscan warriors just to go one-on-one with Boba to kind of, I think, to test his battle ability and to see that this guy might be worth something and might be
Yeah.
a worthwhile ally.
True.
And I think that's what we saw with the sharing of the water. I think that was taking us back to the paying of tribute, because we saw the paying of tribute by that Tuscan Raider clan leader, essentially giving the water. And that was my big takeaway, that's what we're going to see in the next episode. We're going to see more development of that particular relationship. The other things are completely up in the air, but I think that's going to be something that's going to be heavily leaned upon. And I think we might see more shadows of his involvement with the Tuscan Raiders in present time, meaning outside of the back to tank.
What you got, Crew?
I just wanted to agree with DC because that happened to Mandalorian with Mando, right? He befriended the Tuscan Raiders to defeat their, I don't even know what that monster would be called because I don't remember his name, but
let's call it Dave.
Yeah, I mean, he met up with them, right? Befriended them. Also, the Tuscan Raiders have more screen time than like Boba Fett, right? So I agree with DC if they're going to bring them in some capacity to where they're not just going to show them beating Boba Fett, right? Boba Fett is not a baby. He is not a weak link. He's a bounty hunter, right? And I think a lot of things I read online, just with people going over the show itself, was, oh, Boba Fett's, he's weak. He came out of the Sarlacc and now he's this. He needs help. He needs this and that. But I agree with DC. I think the Tuscan Raiders are going to have their place now in the Star Wars canon future, with having an actual place where they're going to be either helpful or villainized in some capacity with Boba Fett's crime lord scene.
I agree with you completely. I have to go to my partner on this because Gene always has this depth of knowledge that is incredible to me. So when he put this comment in, I've got to put this up for you. At least it's better than Tron.
Oh God,
I love Tron. Gene, we're gonna have words, dude.
So Fitzmagic bringing to the table absolute Star Wars wisdom. I just wanted to bring that up. And then Mike from Mousepirations, said it's a great discussion tonight. Excited for your show on Sunday, which we're all going to be tuning in for without a doubt.
Dude, I can't wait.
It's going to be a lot of fun to do those things. So we kind of have gone down that road of what we all think, where we think it's going, what we think is, what some of the Easter eggs were, where we're headed with it. I think we all kind of feel the same way, that it's Boba Fett. But I gotta say the one thing, and one of the hardest things of being a host over being a panelist is not saying this. It's freaking Boba Fett. Like, we've been waiting 40 freaking years for Boba Fett. Like, he's there, he's live, he's on the screen. I've been waiting for this series. It's this one and Obi-Wan for me are the ones that are I'm just pumped for. I'm not telling you I'm not going to love Mando 3.
Well, don't forget, like this, we're playing with house money with this series. This was only announced last year. When they dropped this post Mando season 2, our minds blew. We were like, what? Boom. This was not on the slate. I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know about that is going to come up because of the popularity of this. The higher ups, and you said for all of his woes and the thing, Chapek is all in on
Disney Plus.
He is all in. So when water cooler conversations like this continue to spring up around Star Wars and Marvel series, he is going to double and triple down, and we are going to get more Star Wars than we know what to do.
As long as he keeps a certain person away from it and he keeps the right people in it, I'm in. And, at the end of the day, I have to say this before I give you guys your time for your outros. How about the fact that when we saw Loki and we saw some of the other shows, at the end of the credits, we've all gotten very accustomed to a teaser. Mm-hmm. How about the fact there was none for this one? It was, here's the first episode. We don't need it. It's Boba Fett. You're going to watch week 2. I don't need to tell you anything else. Go watch it.
I don't want to watch a teaser. And I have gotten into skipping recaps too, gentlemen, because recaps are just as good at spoiling the episode.
Yes.
Then it's going to get telegraphed of something that's
telegraphed. You got it.
They
Yeah.
just telegraph what's going to happen.
Exactly.
I don't do trailers. I don't do recaps. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I just want to be shocked.
After Loki, I'm the same way because DC and I went off down a Fantasyland one night. I think we did almost an hour on when they showed the multiverse and he came out and we saw Loki Gator. We talked about that for like an hour. And it was literally, it turned an hour and a half show into a 2.5 hour show because we went off.
Yeah.
And where you could see the Stark building in the background, and all of those things, which when you have no context, you can go anywhere. So I've stopped watching them as well because to me, I think I was just more surprised that they didn't do it, but I don't remember which one of you. I don't remember. One of you take credit for it. Somebody said to me, they're like, I don't need to have a trailer. I think it was DC, and it was one of those where it was like, we don't need it. It's Boba Fett. We're all going to watch it anyway. So why do you need a trailer? We're like, wow, we finally have him. So I think that, there's a lot that we're going to see coming up in this. But this is a lot of fun. Just sitting around with you guys, going through this stuff, watching because let's be perfectly honest, you guys all bring something to the table when it comes to your Disney knowledge and what we've done. And I bet you next week, because coming out of the box, great first show, guys, by the way.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I
had a lot of fun with everyone.
That's fun.
I think you guys are going to come next week with your A games. We're going to have some of week 1 making more sense in week 2 because they're going to unpack some of what we saw in week 2. So as we move through, I'm going to give Crew the first out tonight, just so that he can, because Crew's actually on vacation. He was super nice to give us some time today.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Most people don't know this because his wife's actually in the chat. We wanted to make sure that we wrapped up.
Tell me to smile.
Why?
She says, even though you're a Sith Lord,
it would look unnatural. You're always.
I know, that grin. No, so thank you for having me on. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, the new show is phenomenal. I watched, I think, 4 or 5 times already, just to find maybe some things I missed. But in general, just watching some of the things in historically, like whether it be YouTube or Disney Plus series, like Under the Helmet with Boba Fett, a lot of things that Boba Fett was just kind of a character they created and it took off. And now they've created the series, and to be a part of like just kind of a panel talking about the episodes is pretty phenomenal, if you will. The character definitely is pretty, the Jill type in there. It's pretty phenomenal just on episode 1, right? Just like Mando was. So I'm super appreciative to have me on, Dave.
Yeah. And the fun part about what Jill just put actually mirrors what you were saying, which is I definitely enjoyed the show. Helped me discuss what we saw and figure out some of the things for the next episode. And that's really what we want to do. Like we've watched a lot of things. Every one of us is a Star Wars nerd in some capacity. Including the Star Wars nerd down to my lower right, because he's going to be doing an entire show of just in-depth diving where they go to places. I mean, they're bringing in the Bible.
Yeah.
So when you get that enthralled and you literally can not only pronounce, but say the name and spell it phonetically of every character in every series of everything, Mark's where you're going to want to go because he's going to take you down that road. And with Crew has such an appreciation for the series. I think literally every time I've had a phone call with you, which is quite often, you have a Star Wars movie or show on while we're talking. You've made multiple appearances on my shows in helmets, without helmets. Next week, you'll be back at home where we'll all get to play with our helmets. Including DC. Next week is helmet week. And, but other than that, then you have DC who blocking and talking with Star Wars. I mean, every week you're building Legos. For your birthday, it was the Mos Eisley Cantina, wasn't it?
Yep.
So these are people who dive into Star Wars, that eat it, sleep it, breathe it. They love it. But Crew, wrap up where, I know you don't have anything to promote. So promote the things that you enjoy and the things that you love, and then we're going to get you out of here.
The only thing, if you would love to check my wife's channel out, Heather Ever After, with the unboxings, it's really not a promotion. If you will do it for fun, we both have jobs, so it's really nothing that, I don't know. We just do it for fun.
That's okay.
The last thing I will say for Boba Fett is Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Star Wars is in good hands.
Amen.
In my
Amen.
Amen.
So foreshadowing any of the next episodes and or things they're doing on projects, I sometimes would like to leave it up to them to go, hey, put it on the big screen or your computer, your TV, whatever it is, and let us enjoy it.
I agree with that completely. I think that, a lot of what we're going to try and do in the show is we develop it through the week, and we're getting ready for the next one will be so that we're all doing this the way that we enjoy it, so that we can all have a lot of fun, so that the audience can watch and have a lot of fun. If you're watching this on Team Replay, do us a favor, drop in a comment so that if there's anything you want us to talk about, if there's anything that you want us to recap for next week, make sure you leave that comment down below. For our chat, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe button, and throw in a chat if there's any last minute questions that you guys have. With that, we're going to say goodnight to our Sith Lord. Thank you
guys.
for
Bye, Mark.
me.
Bye, DC.
And with
Later,
that,
man.
Bye, Dave. Bye,
See you,
Chad.
man.
See you guys.
take care, dude.
All right. Bye.
Bye. And then there were two. So
Always two there are, a master and an apprentice. I will defer, he can be master. I have no problem being the Padawan.
you're a grandma, which 3 times I almost called you grandma.
Nah.
Just so you know, I almost called you grandma.
I'm getting up there in age. I am a man of a certain age at this point.
So grandma,
You may fire when ready.
You may fire when ready. Evacuate in a moment of triumph. I think you overestimate the chances.
oh boy, Mickey showed up. So, basically, you guys know where we're at with everything. I think tonight was an absolutely epic way to start this because let's be perfectly honest. They gave us just enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was not so much that we were sitting here going,
Yeah.
They developed a story. They gave us that connection, if you will, and then moved us forward. I absolutely love this episode, and I'm usually the hardest person in the world to please. DC knows that because I was impossible on Loki, and for no reason. It was just I was impossible. So, but Mark, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Tell us about Sunday. Tell us about Diz Life. Tell us about Boba Fett. Give us your last few minutes of wrap up.
So again, please, first of all, thank you to the chat for helping us hit 500. It was our goal to hit 500 for 2022. We've been at this for about a year. We were a coronavirus podcast that stuck in the house. We needed to live inside of a positive bubble. So we started a Disney podcast, but this Diz Life, DISL Life, is a place where we have parks-based podcasts, vlogs. We have a Disney News live stream every Monday night. But my passion, when you cut me open, I bleed Star Wars. Ever since I can remember, as old as like my earliest memories were of E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Return of the Jedi. I have loved Star Wars. It was my first love and my first passion. I'm a 43-year-old man who will turn into an 8-year-old instantly when Luke Skywalker comes on my screen. But I love the pageantry of Star Wars. I love the prose of it. I love the hero's journey. Well, yeah, I'm not going to cry at that picture because my dude is very upset. Oh, there he is. He's a handsome man. I'm happily married, but that's Sebastian Stan. So every Sunday we will be live streaming in addition to being on the Jedi Council here. We will be doing deep dives with my co-hosts, amazing co-host, Michael Ruby and Brian Lee. And we really get into the weeds. So as an interactive show, bring every crazy question that you have and everything that you really want us to go deep with the show on, because the whole purpose of that show is for us to dissect Star Wars on a whole new level. But I would love if you subscribe to that. Go to podpage.com/babus-frickin-podcast. If you're a fan of Babu Frick, he is our namesake, and we have a good time, man. It's just all of us. But thank you to the chat.
So what time on Sunday can they get over there?
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is going to be, and I say Eastern Standard Time because Mike is a West Coaster. So we had to find a time that worked for him, and we're all dads. We're all dads as well.
Wait a second. There's more than one time zone?
There is.
We were in Star Wars time.
There is.
That's
So-
Galactic Central Time.
See, Galactic Central Time, Galactic Council time, if you will. So wrap up Boba Fett for us, week 1. Your thoughts. Give us your send off into the epic universe.
It was the best kind of fan service that we have waited over 3 decades to finally get the answer of what happened to Boba Fett. Until then, it was Legends. Thank you, Robert Rodriguez, for not making us wait and immediately giving us the what happens with the Sarlacc. Thank you so much for all of the Easter eggs. We haven't even talked about Max Rebo and the anxiety that I have had for decades, wondering if my most beloved musician perished aboard Jabba's sail barge. I am so glad that, like Piano Rob, he took the right gig that day and he was not playing on the sail barge.
Amen.
That Max Rebo lives. I'm hoping that's Figure and Dan, and they have formed a super band. But we got just the right amount of news story and that backfilling in the narrative to see how Boba Fett is going to transform into this biblical hero and take this journey with him through this anthology of his life and the future of Boba Fett.
Well, that was actually epic because you got to tie in a couple of things. You tied in Boba Fett and Piano Rob in the same sentence. So I think if we were giving away points, if this were around the magic, I would give you a ding ding for that.
Is Piano Rob not the Max Rebo of this world around? Like he's
I'll tell you what,
beloved.
he is performing. Matter of fact, you said his name and look who it is.
There he is.
You literally, we literally just mentioned Piano Rob for the first time in the show, and he stops in immediately. Then he goes, "Hey, I'm stopping in to say, hey, I heard my name." Piano Rob, you were just mentioned as literally Star Wars royalty. Just so you know.
All good things. All good things.
So, and by the way, and there is Magical Lifestyle. There it is, Gene sitting there saying, my Disney compañero. So we've got both of them in here. And then, of course, Patrick saying, thank you for a great show. You guys brightened brightened my evening. That's what this is all about. It's about having the fun. It's about doing this stuff. You can catch Grandma on on Sunday over on his channel. Go over and support Mark as well. Thank you for getting him up over 500. Thank you for joining the council, for being a part of our epic universe, and for joining the FP network. We truly, truly appreciate having you on. Every single time that you're on, you're an absolute pleasure to have. So with that, we bid you a fond farewell, and may the force be with you.
Always.
Take care, buddy.
See you, Mark.
And then number 2.
Here I am.
With your green lights in the background, with your Jedi robes on, with your Christmas tree.
Boba wouldn't have the lighting any other way.
No other way. It's a mixture of things because you also live by an expression that is green.
Oh, yes. We'll get to that.
We will get there. So tell everybody where they can find you, what you do on a regular basis on the weekly shows, and then give us your wrap up on Boba Fett.
You got it. Well, you can find me, DC, and my wife, Michelle, on our YouTube channel, DC and Michelle Do, and also on our Instagram with the same name, DC and Michelle Do. And we try to be beacons of positivity and light. And I'm not going to go too much more past that. And if you liked hearing what I had to say about Star Wars tonight, wait till you hang out with my wife. She's my better half, and she brings a whole different kind of awesome energy. And
I have to tell everybody this. I got to interrupt you because when we were at Give Kids the World, tell everybody what your wife was wearing on her beautiful evening gown, and then continue.
What was she wearing on her beautiful evening
Remember
gown?
the little button that she had that was on the lower part of her dress?
Oh, I remember it, but I don't want to misquote it. Michelle, can you put it in the chat? What it said on the pin?
She literally was she was in this beautiful evening gown at Give Kids the World. We were at an epic gala, just so that everybody understands. DC was in a tuxedo. Michelle was in a beautiful evening gown. And she was literally wearing a button that said, "The Force is with me."
There it is.
And just so everybody understands, this is who they are.
Yeah.
Like they are Star Wars people through and through. To go to a gala event and literally have a button that is you couldn't. Michelle had to point it out to me, not because she wanted me to know or this or that, but because it was so subtle.
Yeah.
It was beautifully done. You guys looked amazing that night. But go
Thank
ahead.
you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh.
But everyone has to understand. Shelly's as big a Star Wars nerd as you are,
Dude,
and she's welcome.
You got to come and
be on the
come and
panel
check us
anytime.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you definitely have to come and check us out. And
Okay.
one of the shows that we have on our channel is called Blocking and Talking, and that's going to be every Wednesday night at 7:11 Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, we picked 7-Eleven because, the whole numbers thing. I'm a weirdo with numbers. You'll find out if you come and hang out with us. And also, beyond Blocking and Talking, which we will be doing on the Wednesday nights, where we build Lego Star Wars. So if you're into Lego and you're into Star Wars and you're into talking about those things and you're also into talking about just what's going on in your life, come and hang out with us. We'd love to have you. And if you want to just come and see other content, check our channel out. Check our Instagram channel out. Michelle, she's the resident in-house comedian, and she is always bringing the funny on our Instagram page. So please come and check that out, because I can't compare. When she posted the first thing on it, I said, I can't do anything. I cannot top you. You are the queen of this particular part of DC and Michelle do. I mean, we know that she is, but that's a whole other thing. And aside from our Instagram and back to our YouTube channel, we go live from the parks every now and then, bringing some of that Disney energy. It's not necessarily all that we do, but occasionally we like to check in. Mostly we head to Batuu because, let's face it, we got to get off world sometimes. And if you're going to go to another planet, it's got to be Batuu. That said, we got some really cool things coming up in 2022, some fun, different types of adventures that we'll just be sharing. So come and check us out on our YouTube channel at DC Michelle Do.
For us.
What's up?
Wrap up Boba Fett for us. What's your
Boba
thoughts?
Fett.
Wrap it up for us. Give us your synopsis in a minute, and then we're going to roll on out.
Whew. Well, okay. First off, I am happy to have more Star Wars. As a lifelong Star Wars fan, I couldn't be more pleased. And essentially, I'm taking this as a blank slate. And I think we're going to be seeing, like I mentioned earlier, an elevated form of Star Wars. I think we're going to get to see different kind of storytelling. I think we're going to get to witness the gangster crime version of Star Wars, because throughout all the Star Wars films, we've known that there is this criminal underground that's bubbling underneath the surface, that's always being hinted at, that's always interwoven through our plots and storylines. So now we are getting to peel back the veil, if you will, and get a first-hand look into that particular world. And plus, we're back on Tatooine where it all started, so that's amazing. But as far as Boba Fett goes, I'm looking forward to getting to know more about this character and to see how he becomes one of the all-time greats. I mean, before he was very limited on screen time, and he was cool and mysterious, and we wanted to know more about him. Well, guess what? Now we're going to get him, and I think he's going to be elevated.
Yeah,
he's going to be elevated to canonical status. I think he's going to be up there with your Vaders, Palpatines, Skywalkers, Hans, Landos, and Chewies.
Matter of fact, next week,
my wife's favorite Leia.
What we're going to do before this series is over is we're actually going to do who's our Star Wars Mount Rushmore. So that's something that I want to do with you guys. But until next week, everybody go check out DC over on his channel, DC and Michelle Do. Your slogan, sir, as you bid us a fond farewell, please.
That's right. Well, Michelle will finish it off in the chat, okay? Because we always close it out together. So I will say the first part of it, and she'll finish it up in the chat. Fair enough, Dave?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Remember, do or do not.
And with that, my brother, we will see you next week. Thanks, DC.
Thanks, Dave.
So, everybody, we're going to wrap up with this. We had a great first show. Everybody came to the council. The council is now closed for this week. Michelle is putting up the answer. There is no try. Do or do not. There is no try, everyone. So, and that is something that they live their life by. So we want to, Dave is mildly busy at this moment. We're going to be going over to our 9 o'clock show here shortly, which is the Disney Underground. I want to thank everybody on the panel for coming in, for taking time out of their days. They were absolutely epic guests. They did fantastic as panelists. I truly enjoyed having Crew on, and Mark and DC. Everyone in the chat, you guys were fantastic. We really, truly appreciate you guys. 9 o'clock, we will be at the Disney Underground, where we will take you through more things Disney. But with that in mind, I'm going to switch over right now because it will be funny to do. We're going to switch backgrounds. Boop. Oh, wait, look, Dave's in a whole new place. It is because Dave forgot to load something. So Dave's going to go ahead and do what he does best, which is finishes out the show the only way I know how. Everybody, I thank you guys tonight. Wait till you see our closing credits. They're kind of funny. I do have a couple of bills to pay, so let me go ahead and run these, and then pay attention because we produced kind of an interesting closing for you. So until then, everybody, thank you for doing Boba Fett with us. We will see you guys next week. We hope that you have a magical night. Today's show is brought to you by Mouska Planner. You're paying for a travel agent? You may as well use the best. Contact Mouska Planner today. What do you do with your ears when it's raining in the park? The answer is Ponch Ear, the first internationally patented poncho that is designed to protect and display your headgear. Whoops. Sorry about that, everybody.
Wow.